Hi, I'm Randy Altman with Post Perspective. We're here at SMPTE 2019. This is Pete Lude. Next to me, he is a longtime SMPTE member, past president, a fellow. You're on a current committee on immersive sound in cinema?
That's right, Immersive Sound for Cinema Working Group.
Why don't we talk a little bit about your relationship with SMPTE before we start talking about your newest project?
Sure, thanks Randy, terrific to be here. And I've been a SMPTE member since I was in high school, which is quite a few years ago. And about 20 years ago, I guess, I was drafted in to be a governor on a national level, to be able to represent my region out in San Francisco. And I stayed on the board for many years, was serving as the vice president of education for 4 years, and then I was nominated and elected to be the president of SMPTE. Along the way, I was honored to become a SMPTE fellow, and I've enjoyed participating in many, many conferences, presenting papers, chairing sessions, being on the conference committee. And so this is a very familiar turf for me, and it's good to be here.
You're clearly happy to give back to the industry.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what it's all about.
So let's talk about IDEA.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is? It's about immersive projects, but specifically...
Well, it's very new, so you're probably not too familiar with it. It's called the Immersive Digital Experiences Alliance, IDEA. You like that name?
Yes,
that was
I like
a big
it.
committee meeting to come up with that. And you can find out more at immersivealliance.org. But this is a group of technology, media, and network companies that were talking informally over the course of several years that were collectively developing this new type of media technology that's based on light field imaging. Light fields is a very kind of almost science fiction-like high-end way of conveying volumetric 3D information. It's 3D that you don't need glasses, and it's not stereoscopic because it shows a volumetric image from all directions. So it's very much like the holodeck, if you're trying to explain that to somebody, and people say, yeah, that's science fiction. You'd think it was, but this has been being developed for many years. And I saw my first light field displays 10 years ago, the light field cameras out of Stanford University 20 years ago, a guy named Mark Lavoie. A company called Lytro spun out of that unfortunately was recently snatched up by Google. So this is real, it's been out there, and there's a number of companies, a large number of companies that are working on developing the technology. But as with all things, there's a missing link, and the missing link was how you convey that information from the light field camera through a network to a light field display. The need for standards. So I was pulled into this process to help formulate this new group with the objective of building a interchange format that is called the Immersive Technology Media Format, or ITMF. And the reason that idea was formed was to get all the like-minded people together, not just technologists and engineers, but content creators, and also network providers. So we could make sure that the standard is something that's practical to be sent over today in future networks, whether it's 5G or the cable television's 10G standard, which is emerging. We want to make sure that the cinematographers know how to use it, that we're able to capture all the different creative requirements for it, and that the display manufacturers could make good use of that format.
Fantastic. So how is that going, and what is your relationship with SMPTE in terms of getting that standard going? Yeah,
so the way that SMPTE works is that they will often work off an established set of requirement standards, or a draft standard that's put together from the industry. A good example of that is when digital cinema came to be, a very important standard that was first proposed by an industry alliance called the Digital Cinema Initiative, DCI, and then SMPTE took it over once it was mature to be able to codify international standards based on that. And we think that the immersive format will be very similar to that. So we're going to do our homework, we're going to do demonstrations, we're going to get input from all the stakeholders and to build the standard, and then we're going to bring it to SMPTE in order to make that into an international standard when the time is right.
How long does something like that take?
We think it'll take years, but that's okay because the technology is still emerging year by year. So this is, I can't buy a light field display right now exactly on the market. Some guys are coming pretty close to it. But over the next few years, you'll start to see more commercialization, so we want to be ready. And IDEA had a couple of very important milestones just earlier this month. One is that we actually published the first version of this ITMF, Immersive Technology Media Format specification. It's on our website now, immersivealliance.org. And it's a three-part suite of standards now that describe the scene graph and the container format and the data encoding for this very complex volumetric image and now you could build a renderer to it. We're calling this the version 0.09 specification because we know that there's a lot more work that needs to go on for this. We have a lot of homework, but we wanted to get it out there to socialize, to get feedback, and to open the community.
I was going to say, are you welcoming people that are out there creating immersive projects right now? Or are you welcoming them in and offering, if they have opinions and suggestions?
Yeah, we very much want to make sure that we address all the requirements of the creative community. And I think there's a lot of learning going on right now as people are using, today's state-of-the-art VR, AR, XR, and they're learning how to do storytelling with immersive technology. They're going to come back to us and say, you really need to make sure that you're able to handle the occlusions, or that you're able to pan your head from left to right, or that there's enough dynamic range or temporal response. So all these technical attributes, which could be an impediment to storytelling, we want to be sure we avoid the impediments and get everything right. But we also want the technology companies, the academics, the laboratories, the computer graphics people, and the camera manufacturers to weigh in with what's practical and what isn't, and what new pieces could go into this.
Sounds great, Pete. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the work you're doing. I appreciate it. We all do. Randy Altman, SMPTE 2019.